SeizingPsych works to educate and initiate community discussion surrounding mental illness. They have over a decade of experience, and they work hard to eliminate the stigma that surrounds mental illness today. Join us in the next 30 minutes as we meet all the people behind the scenes and find out about all the valuable programs and resources available to not only the people that are suffering, but also the caregivers. I'm Christy Breslin, and this is Harford MagaScene.
SeizingPsych was started after our family experienced a major mental health crisis, and we realized that there were so many things that made experiencing that lonely and really hopeless for the family, that there were so many resources and supports that families didn't have, resources that they did need. And so we formed SeizingPsych in order to provide that kind of outlet for other families who don't have the means or the resources immediately available to them. SeizingPsych was established with three major roles in the community in mind, and that is to educate, advocate, and participate in mental health in the community. And so by educate, what I mean is going into the community and providing workshops and different kinds of talks to organizations from schools to businesses to medical professionals, really anyone who will have an open conversation with us about mental health and what it means to live with a mental illness or be a family member or a caregiver for someone with a mental illness. And our goal there is really to decrease stigma in the community, so decrease the perception that people with mental illness there's something inherently wrong with them, and to help people understand the best ways to support people and families who are living with these diseases. By advocate, what I mean is that we provide resources and connections to resources for families that need them. And so that might mean that we provide funding when a family is in crisis, or that we connect them with someone who can provide a resource like a certain kind of rehabilitation or information about housing, all of those kinds of things, and really try to advocate for the needs of the individual or the family in the community. And then finally, we participate by actively going out into the community and providing individuals with essentials or things that they might need or want. And so that can look like volunteers going into the community to distribute survival kits. That can look like volunteers helping to collect goods for families who in our Adopt a Family program at the holidays. That can also look like crisis grants where we provide families with funding when they're in crisis. So SeizingPsych supports really anyone who's in connection or knows of someone who has and is living with a mental illness or any kind of psychiatric or neurological disease. So that is a whole range from our cheerleaders in our caregiver support group who are actively caring for and cheering on their family members or loved ones, or just they can even just be someone else in the community that they know and support, who has particularly a serious mental illness, and especially people with psychosis, is really the point of that support group, to anyone who might need information about how to get a certain kind of housing because they are at risk for houselessness and have a psychiatric or neurological diagnosis. Someone who needs help navigating the school system or the medical system because of a psychiatric or neurological diagnosis. And then finally, it really means any community member who knows someone who. So if you know someone who has a mental illness, SeizingPsych is here to support you in that endeavor. It's important to provide funding and resources to individuals and families who are living with mental illness or psychiatric or neurological diagnoses, because we know historically these families and these individuals have been stigmatized. But because of this stigma, we know that these families typically have less access to resources or less able to talk about what they're going through, and it's hard to find support. And so by providing these support to these individuals, we allow them to really truly seize the opportunities and the visions that they have for themselves in order to be more of a part of their community. So by raising up individuals and families who are living with mental illness, we're really able to create a more cohesive, inclusive, and productive community. As the sibling of someone who lives with mental illness, I know what it means for families. I know the obstacles that families face when one of these diagnoses happens in the family. And I know that that means oftentimes that family members are very lonely, feel very hopeless. I was very lucky because there were members of the community who came out intentionally to support me as a 12-year-old child and make sure that the things that my family didn't have the means or resources to provide me when my family member needed support from my family and needed our resources and whatever finances we had, that the community came out for me was really integral to how I experienced that. And so as someone who knows the value of community support, I want families who come to SeizingPsych, who interact with SeizingPsych and seek support from SeizingPsych, to come to us and find those resources, find those means that they otherwise don't have because of whatever mental health crisis or problem is going on, and to feel less alone, to feel supported, to feel like they have what they need to become the best version of themselves despite what is happening, and really not to just be a family who has a mental illness, but to become a family who is living with mental illness. You can learn more about what SeizingPsych is doing in the community by going to our website at www.seizingpsych.com or finding us on social media at SeizingPsych. Also, you can register to receive our monthly newsletter, and that's going to tell you whatever SeizingPsych is doing in the community that month, as well as what other mental health organizations are doing. A lot of times there's also a lot of other information like psych education. So, a word that you might not know that has to do with a family member's illness, like hallucination or anosognosia is a fun one. Those terms will be defined for you to better understand what's going on. And finally, it always ends with a fun seasonal recipe, so that's a great takeaway.
I'm joined with Kristen Canyu. She is the co-founder here of SeizingPsych, and she's here to tell us all about their humble beginnings and how they are helping the good people here in Harford County. Hi, Kristen.
Hi, Chrissy.
Kristen, tell me, when did you first start SeizingPsych, and why did you feel like it was something that we needed right here in Harford County?
Actually, SeizingPsych was started, was the brainchild of Nicole, who is our president. And it was born from our experience when my son was diagnosed with schizophrenia. So I was a single mother, and he was a student at Johns Hopkins University and was diagnosed with schizophrenia. And ultimately, I ended up leaving my career. I was a financial advisor in order to take care of him. So he was too sick to be left alone, but not sick enough to be considered dangerous to be hospitalized. So it created kind of a chasm where I went from having a lucrative income to no income.
Oh, wow.
And still trying to pay bills and do everything else. And I was a single mother of two. So Nicole was 11, and I was trying to take care of both of them and then also navigate this new world of schizophrenia, if you will. It was overwhelming. It was petrifying. I basically watched my son go from a 19-year-old articulate Johns Hopkins student to someone that was unable to carry a conversation and try to kind of get through that. And it was very lonely, and people don't understand what these illnesses are or how to deal with them. So Nicole grew up. My son, we ultimately became more stable. And then she came to me one day and said, Mom, maybe we should do something to help other people so that they don't have to go through the experiences that we did.
Oh, absolutely. And so that brings us to your mission. What exactly is the mission?
So the mission of SeizingPsych, Nicole has a very articulated way to put it. I generally say that we are the United Way of mental health. We don't perform specific case management functions, but we basically, if someone has an illness and they're in need, we work to fill that need. So help people with resources, and we have our crisis grants and help people navigate the entitlements and that type of thing. So generally, we work to facilitate, to help people navigate the world of mental health and ultimately come through it in one piece.
Now, you said crisis grant. What is that?
A crisis grant is, not to be redundant, is literally that. So the crisis grant is when someone has, let's say, someone's son or daughter has a crisis, or a family member, and they have to stop working, and they're then have an urgent or emergent need for, let's say they are receiving turn-off notices, or they need medication, or something like that. So when my son became ill, before we found entitlements for him, or found a way, those resources, I was trying to pay for all of his medications to the tune of several $1,000s a month. Wow. And didn't have an income because I was taking care of him. So what we found was we're not the only people that have lived through that. So if someone is in need like that, or they get eviction notices, then they can come to us, and we sit down and kind of as a board, all of us get together and go through. I generally interview the person and find out what the need is, and then how we can help them with the need. So if it's a turn-off notice for a utility, then a lot of times what we'll do is we actually pay the utility.
Oh,
so,
okay.
It's less often handing someone money, and it is typically for an urgent need. So I bought a car and took a car payment that is above what I can afford right now is probably not a crisis. Right. So everyone has their own idea of crisis. So when we talk about crisis, we kind of look at the same identifiers as you would see in any type of government system. We just go about it in a more personable way, where I'm not saying, here are 6 pieces of paper that you need to fill out and tell me your entire life story and give me all of your bills. And, it really is a conversation where it's, okay, you have a need. We had someone come to us and they needed a bed. Their son's medication caused him to have problems when he slept, and they needed a bed. So we then found them a bed.
Now, Kristen, you talked about the crisis grant programs, but I know that's just one of many programs that you offer here at SeizingPsych. So can you elaborate a little bit more on some of the other resources and programs that are offered?
So we help people find resources. We have an adoptive family group, or adoptive family campaign that we run every winter, our survival kit campaign, and then we also just started our crisis and our caregiver support group that runs the 4th Saturday of every month via Zoom for caregivers of people with mental illness.
And what about Adopt a Family? Don't you have a program for that as well?
We do. The Adopt a Family program is where families are sponsored to us. They give us a list of what their wishes are for the holiday, and then we work with donations and whatnot from the community to try to kind of give them a day of the year that they can get outside of that mental illness and kind of just enjoy the day.
Now, Kristen, let me ask you, you do so many things for people here that are taking advantage of these wonderful opportunities, people that are really suffering with mental health. What can we as a community do to help you, to give back?
Honestly, the biggest need that we have is donations. Pretty much everything we do is ultimately driven by donations. So, and 98% of everything we bring in, we give back to the community.
Thank you so much. This is such a great resource for people here in Harford County, and it's something that really needs to be talked about and addressed. So thank you for being a voice for our community.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, absolutely. And coming up next, we're going to hear more about the caregivers aspect of Seizing Psych. Carissa Rouse is a mental health therapist, and she's a very valuable partner here with Seizing Psych. She's going to tell us about all the partnerships that they have built together and specifically how they can help the caregivers. Hi, Carissa.
Hi.
Carissa, how did you first connect with Seizing Psych? Because I know you have a very strong partnership.
One of the founding members of Seizing Psych, Will, is still participating in treatment at the Maryland Psychiatric Research Center, which is where I work. And so we've been connected in different projects that have included Seizing Psych coming into our clinic and putting on different workshops for various different projects that we have. And then our clinic, our research center, does partner with the National Alliance of Mental Illness to do fundraising, and we recruited Seizing Psych to be a part of our art and creativity exhibition and silent auction, and they volunteer, and we became really good partners.
Yeah, it sounds like a great connection. So what is your role at the psychiatric center?
I'm a mental health therapist, a licensed clinical professional counselor, and I actually work for the division called the First Episode Clinic, where we treat individuals who have experienced psychosis, mainly because of a primary psychotic disorder like schizophrenia. And we treat them within the first 2 years of experiencing symptoms of psychosis. We are a coordinated specialty care clinic, which is an evidence-based model for treating early psychosis in young people.
Now, Carissa, not only is this very difficult for the person experiencing the mental health crisis, but what about the caregivers? It's so hard for them as well. Tell us about your caregiver support.
Absolutely. We recognize that certainly family members need a lot of support and education when psychosis moves in with you, so to speak. So we provide at our clinic a family support group that I've been running for about 6 years, that I had started there because we recognized the need for family support and education. The evidence shows that individuals with psychosis will have better outcomes if their family is involved in their care and their family is educated and supported along the recovery. We recognize that it's difficult for family members who do not have a loved one with psychosis that are connected with a clinic that provides that support. And Seizing Psych at the same time was noticing that gap in our communities being able to support families if their loved one was not connected with such services. So we partnered together. We both were wanting to do it for a long time, and we happened to meet at the National Alliance of Mental Illness event, and we said, let's partner up and get this done. So we did.
Well, I know it's been very successful. So what does a typical session look like?
Sure. We open up with just a little bit of information about who Seizing Psych is, the different kinds of services they can provide for anyone that's new to the group and doesn't understand their organization. We then just cover confidentiality. We always want our family members to feel safe coming and sharing about their experiences with other family members. And then we often will do a little bit of grounding or mindfulness exercise to just give the family members that are working so hard to support their loved ones a little bit of a break and a little bit of solace. And then we just really open it up to check in with how their past month has been. We love updates on how their loved ones are doing. We often will ask for a win and a struggle because we know that many families are having both at the same time. So we just really let the family members bring whatever they want help and support around, and we sprinkle a little psychoeducation and fun in the mix.
I mean, this is just such a valuable resource. So anybody that's interested, how do they go about signing up for the group?
Sure. They just check out Seizing Psych's website, which is www.seizingpsych.com/CSG for Caregiver Support Group, and that'll bring them right to the page where you can learn more about the group and then link to the registration. Registration is not a requirement. Registration is not a commitment to actually attending the group. Registration just gets you the link so that whenever you're ready to attend the group, you have that Zoom link, and you also start to get communications from the organization so that you know what's going on, and when you're ready, you can join us on a Saturday morning.
Carissa, thank you again so much. It sounds like this group is just so helpful to so many members of the community, and great leadership, of course.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And coming up, we're going to hear more about the peer support and how it can impact and assist you. I'm now joined with Will Garrett. He is a valuable member here at SeizingPsych. He is the social media chair, peer support advocate, and he's here to tell us about his story and how he gets the word out about all the wonderful work that this organization does for the citizens of Harford County. Hi, Will.
Nice to meet you, Christy.
Now, Will, you're a very valuable asset here to SeizingPsych. How did you first come about getting so involved with the program?
Okay, so I was diagnosed with schizophrenia back in 2007, and that found my mother, my family, in a very precarious situation, both financially and emotionally. And my mother had to single-handedly navigate the mental health system to provide care for me and also raise my sister. And kind of out of that experience, SeizingPsych was born to help other people in that position that they found themselves when I got sick. And I only really became a part of SeizingPsych when I was healthy enough to, help.
Well, it's really brave of you to share your story, and I know that you're very involved with them now, so you're a peer supporter.
Yes.
What does that mean?
That means I talk to people as a peer who had similar experience or having similar experience that I have growing up and dealing with schizophrenia and the idea of recovery and trying to make my recovery happen. So essentially, I'm 100% open in what I do. I have lived experiences that uniquely qualifies to help these people and essentially to give back to the mental community that helped me.
Well, I know you've helped a lot of people. Is there any particular experience or memory that you can talk about?
Yeah, that's an easy one. I'd say it's our adopt-a-family every year. Well, growing up, Christmas was a very big thing in my family. We always had lavish Christmases. And knowing that we can bring that sort of experience to people that aren't capable of it at the time and haven't really experienced it, it puts me beside myself, really. It's a great feeling to be able to imagine the smiles on the children's faces on Christmas morning when they see, what we put together for them as a group and as a community.
From your perspective, what do you think is the most impactful part of SeizingPsych for our community?
I like to call SeizingPsych like a liaison service, which means we take people who are in need and don't necessarily know how to navigate the system, and we help them do that on multiple levels, both navigating the paperwork associated with Social Security, DSS, all those things that we didn't know how to do 20 years ago and know how to do now. We're trying to pass on that information to them. I think that making the process of mental health easier is our big contribution.
Well, you're a voice and you're in charge of social media, and we know how prevalent social media is these days. So tell us how you get the word out.
Primarily, we speak to the world through Facebook. We also have an Instagram and a Twitter that we use. We have a monthly newsletter that we send out, but I think we prioritize Facebook because we do have that following. It's as the social media coordinator, it's interesting to get on in the morning and post, just a little quip or a quote of inspiration, and then check back later that evening and have it blow up, and you have like 300 people responding to you.
Will, you've served as a voice, and I'm so impressed with your social media efforts. You really work hard to get the word out to all these people about all the wonderful things that are going on at the organization. So how do you get the word out?
Go to SeizingPsych.com/workshops, or you can reach out to us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
Will, you've come a long way, and you've been through a lot. And to me, it seems like you're doing great. How are you doing today?
Life today is good. I did have an interview earlier where I was the peer advocate, talking with someone who's starting Clozaril, which is the antipsychotic that I'm on and have been on for 15 years. And it was pretty nice to be appreciated in that context, to be able to share, my experiences and help someone, possibly change their life by, taking this medication that for me was my, kind of my turning point in recovery.
Will, thank you so much again. You really opening up and sharing your story is going to help so many other people that are in the same place as you are, and you're doing great today, and we couldn't be happier to hear it. So coming up next, we're going to speak to some of the volunteers here at Seizing Psych and find out why they continue to serve. I'm joined with Heather Geyer, who is a volunteer and also a valuable community member here at Seizing Psych. Heather, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Heather, when did you start working with Seizing Psych, and why?
Actually, it was 6 years ago. I met Will at a rehabilitation day program. I thought he was cute, and I asked him out on a date. And yeah, we've been together for 6 years.
That's fantastic. And it sounds like the two of you together have really made an impact here at Seizing Psych. So why don't you tell me about some of the things that you do for the organization?
I believe the first thing I did with Seizing Psych was the survival kits, which was actually very eye-opening. We were in Baltimore, and it was raining, and I actually remember seeing a man sleeping on the ground, just on the sidewalk. It was
Tugs at your heartstrings.
Yes. So I'm actually really thankful to be able to, help people like that.
Heather, I know you're involved with the Adopt a Family program. You've had some experience with it. Share it with us.
When I was younger, my grandfather was the sole breadwinner of our family. And when he passed away, our first Christmas without him was very rough. So we had actually been a part of an Adopt a Family. So I'm actually kind of familiar with that program.
Absolutely, and I know that you did a lot. You were wrapping presents and visiting families. How was that experience?
It was amazing.
How would you say Seizing Psych has influenced your life?
Actually, I was talking to Chris earlier about ways I could help more, and seeing as how my Will is a peer advocate, I was suggesting that perhaps that I could also become one. I've always been told that I'm like great with kids, that kids love me, so I thought, why not try it?
Oh, absolutely. And Heather, what would you say to other people to encourage them if they need the help? Why go to Seizing Psych?
They care.
Is there anything else that you can think that you want to tell our audience members from your perspective?
I suffer with mental illnesses all my life, and if you need help, don't be afraid to reach out and get help.
Heather, thank you so much for all that you do. We are so lucky to have people like you that are so giving and so passionate about the cause. So thank you again for all that you do. Mm-hmm. More to come. Stay with us. Seizing Psych aims to start the conversation for those in need with valuable resources and programs. If you would like to help them by volunteering, donating, just get in touch with them with the information listed on the screen. I'm Christy Breslin. See you next month on Harford Magazine.